veteran PR strategist, Emmy award-winning producer and publisher of Speakers Magazine, who will show you how to crack the code in getting out there to get known. Each week, she either interviews her media friends, PR colleagues, or she just goes solo, offering you strategies on publicity, publishing, and platform building. So, listen up to hear how to get booked on media places and on superstar stages. Now, here's your host, Pam Perry.
Hey, welcome to Get Out There, Get Known podcast. I'm Pam Perry. Thank you for joining us again. So today we have a guest that is going to really talk about how to captivate your audience, right? Her name is Tsufit. She's a coach specializing in helping entrepreneurs and keynote speakers and authors, which we love, captivate their audiences. And that's one of the things that she's been doing for a long time. I've been following this lady for quite a while, and she is a pro at what she does. So with that, I bring up Tsufit. How are you?
I'm good. It's actually Tsufit, and Pam asked me before the show, and I said, ask me on the show. And the reason is because people always ask me, and I'm reminded of a story when I was on terrestrial radio, like real radio once, and the host asked me the same question, how do you pronounce it? And she was saying Tsufit, and I said, no, it's Tsufit, feet, right? So she wrote it down, and then we get on the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome. And today we have award-winning author Tsufit. So she remembered the feet part, but she didn't quite get it right. So
she put both the feet together instead of that, and so it's like, okay, foot, feet, whatever. It's like one of those things. So Tsufit. So thank you so much for joining us today. So we're going to get right into it because one of the main things I want people to know is that you've been at this for quite a while. So tell us a little bit of your backstory. I know that I've been getting your emails for a while. And first of all, I'm going to ask you, who does the emails? They are so entertaining, engaging, and fun, and just well written.
Thank you. First of all, who else? Of course I do the emails. Thank you. So I actually have now about 3 years worth of those emails.
Wow.
And people have been on that list for about 16 years now. Some of the same people, and they just keep going through. And at the end, I guess Pam will tell you how you can get them as well. So I was a little kid singing on the neighborhood deck and trying to, even as a kid, I was a performer. I used to perform at local festivals and things like that. And then my parents said they wanted me to do something practical, like be a doctor or a lawyer, or worse comes to worse, an accountant, or marry one. Anyway, I ended up becoming a litigation lawyer, 10 years civil litigation lawyer, had 4 baby girls in 4 years, boom, 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 boom. Ooh. One day, woke up, had that Peggy Lee moment that, is that all there is moment. So I left the law, kept the kids, and decided to follow my dream, which was to be a singer, actress, comedian. I ended up on a sitcom for 4 years on television. I ended up putting out a music CD. What? But then I'm stuck home with these 4 babies, no car, and like 1,000 CDs in my basement. And I'm like, well, what do I do? So I had to get noticed. I had to get some attention for the CD. But I'm housebound. So I started doing it, and I started getting newspaper, articles, and And then, once in a blue moon, I was let out of the house. So I'd go perform at a music festival, and there would be some big national headliner at the music festival. Somebody famous, at least in Canada or in North America. And there'd be like 50 unknown singers, songwriter people. And I was one of the 50 unknown people. And then there's this big star, right? And we go to the city, whatever it was. There's a local newspaper, and there'd be a big article about, the star that's internationally known. There'd be a big article about Tsufit, and then the 49 other people said, like, who the hell is Tsufit? She's one of, she's what, who, what, where, every city, every town that I went into was exactly big star, Tsufit, 49 other people, like, who the hell, who is she?
So you learned how to pitch the media. I love
learned how to tell a story. And what's my story? Litigation lawyer leaves law for limelight. I mean, in my case, I give them a little alliteration. I threw in, a little whatever. I mean, there was actually a national TV documentary eventually they did a series, and I was one of the series. And the one thing I don't like to share, but which all the media love, is the struggle, right?
Mm, right.
So the producer was filming this half an hour television national documentary about me in my house, whatever. And I didn't want, he said to me, okay, so tell me about the challenges, about the struggle. And I kind of gave him this, not very good one. He turns off the camera, Pam. He turns off the camera, looks at me and says, Tsufit, we need a struggle. So I had to kind of come up with, my version of whatever I'm going to share. So that's one of the keys also. When you pitch the media, you've got to give them, obviously, as you know, and I'm sure your listeners know, you've got to give them an interesting story. And it can't just be a, one-line story. It's got to be a story that starts somewhere and goes. And then, like in the movies where three-quarters of the way through the movie, she breaks up with him. There's the airport chase scene. I mean, you can't have a rom-com without the airport chase scene, because you don't have a movie. They meet in scene one, they're happily ever after. That's not a story that the media, whether it's television, radio, podcast, whatever it is.
I like how you tell this.
Yeah,
I like how you tell the story about your name, because it's spelled differently, and then Tsufit. So then you give the story about, so that people can remember it, and that's part of it as well. But everything has a story, and especially if you're helping keynote speakers and if you're helping entrepreneurs, how to really get the media. I like the fact that when, first of all, your name is different, so you're pitching this headliner of the music, and then you're pitching yourself as well, and then you were kind
No,
of
I didn't pitch the headliner. No, the headliner had his own publicist. I was my publicist.
Yes, you were your own publicist, and everybody can be their own publicist, especially today. So was that before the internet, or the internet was in its real infancy?
It was before, at the beginning. At the
At the
beginning,
very
it was
beginning,
before. It
and
was
it was
kind of around the same time, but it was pretty much by phone. And you say about my name actually means hummingbird in Hebrew. So one of the articles opened with, in a national newspaper, her wings flap so quickly that you can't even see them moving, to feet, which means hummingbird. But so they tied that in.
Oh, I love that. That is so cool. That is
the story I told you about the name. Before I had that radio show, I didn't have that story, right? So I would tell some other story, right? But then that really happened. And since then, every single host, before every single podcast, radio, TV, whatever, they always ask me off the air, because they're really good at what they do, how do I pronounce your name? Because they don't want to mispronounce it, right? And I always tell them exactly what I told you. Ask me on the air.
And so one of the things that I see, that you rebranded yourself from a litigation lawyer to a person that was doing actress, singing, music, comedian, all of those different things. And so that's an interesting thing in by itself. So you were doing that enough where you got good at it. And tell us one of the things that, when you realized, hey, this internet thing is not going away, I'm going to be proficient at this digital marketing thing. You're at home with the kids and you got the computer. And so there is some transferable skills that I would think from the litigation lawyer, obviously, doing the whole entertainment thing, about performing and really communicating and connecting with the audience. Tell our audience, like, what is the main thing that you saw that was the string that pulled everything together for Tsufit, that said, okay, this is okay, that's in my brain.
Are you serious? No, that's the first time that.
So not Tsufit, not Tsufit, but Tsufit. Okay, so Tsufit. And I'm getting that because my name is Pam. It can't get any more. But I do have a couple of times where people call me, my real name is Pamela, and people want to call me Pamela. And literally they fight me, especially when I was in Dominican Republic. It's Pamela. I'm like, my mother called me Pamela. Can we go with what my mom called me? So anyway, so about the string.
Find me a river, Pam.
Right. Yeah, Pam is like just basic. So one of the things what is the string that entrepreneurs, I call them speakerpreneurs, need to have in order to get media attention and captivate their audience? You said it was story, but there's something else special too about you, Tsufit, is that you are good at communicating and in writing. And so the internet was new, but you were writing like you were doing legal stuff. So how did you break it down? Because when I tell you all that her copy is so conversational, if you ever talk to a lawyer, a real lawyer, like in court, they're not talking, they're not talking conversational. So tell us about how you did that and what tips you give speakerpreneurs, entrepreneurs. How to
Actually, at that time, the internet wasn't a factor really at all. Not from when I went to be a lawyer. It just wasn't a factor. So I was doing this at the beginning by going to the library, finding out where there were newspapers and TV, cutting them out, putting them on little index cards, coming home and phoning these people. And I think one of the things that people are afraid to do nowadays is actually pick up the phone. So if any of you listening actually has the chutzpah to pick up the phone, you are going to cut through, there's 95 million gazillion emailed pitches that just never get even opened. And if you pick up the phone and if you can in 30 seconds, look, I've taught a 4-week course on that 30 seconds. And people say, why are you spending 4 whole weeks teaching me to do 30 seconds? Because if you don't know how to say what you do in 30 seconds, you won't know how to say it in 30 minutes either, right? So, and the other thing is, and I think that, first of all, thank you for all the compliments that you gave me, but I think the reason that it works is because of the humor, right?
Yes, it is. That's it.
The audacity. It's because of the breaking the fourth wall or whatever. It's like, I'm supposed to be professional. I'm supposed to sound like, what happened to me, Pam, when I first started my business? People told me about local chambers of commerce and networking meetings. I'd never heard of it, right? So I'd go there to try to get clients because I didn't have any, right? I go to the networking meeting. Everybody gets 30 seconds at the microphone. They pass it around, right? For the first 6 months, you know what happened, Pam? People told me I was doing it wrong. They said, first of all, you need to dress in a suit and, professionally. Secondly, this is how you do your pitch. And they would teach me how to do the pitch. Well, you know what happened? Within about 6 months of me going to those, they were bringing me onto the stage to teach them how to do the pitch. Like, I was completely new in my business, but I had lineups of people waiting to speak to me. Why? Because I broke all the rules.
Yes.
I used the 30 seconds at the microphone as a 30-second show, to make them laugh. Or it wasn't always with humor. Sometimes it was with drama. Sometimes,
alliteration.
You can make an event out of something so simple. Let me just give you an example. So you're at a networking meeting, okay? So Snoozy Snoozerson stands up and says, hi, I'm a financial advisor and for all your financial needs, right? And then Bormy Morrison stands up and says, I'm a realtor and for all your real estate needs, right? And then it's my turn. Well, what I did occasionally was I didn't stand up right away, right? I'd stay seated, and maybe I would start talking seated, and everybody's looking around and like, why isn't she standing up? And then if I stood up in the middle, but like 3/4 of the way through, I'd say, I'm Tsufit, right? You never tell them who you are at the beginning because nobody cares. Until you've engaged them, there's no point in saying your name. So you engage them, and then 3/4 of the way through, when I said my name, I stood up. Well, nobody ever made an event out of standing up the way I did, because people all of a sudden, whoa, she stood up, like that, because it was different. Or another example, we have all the, the boring people saying the boring things that boring people say, and then it gets to you. Sometimes I would be silent for like 4 seconds, 5 seconds out of my 30. Well, people are having conniptions, they're dying, what's happening? People cannot stand silence. It's just painful for them, right? So
They're
then
like,
when
what's
I
wrong? Can she speak? Like, yeah.
When I did open my mouth, again, it was an event.
Yes, that's how you captivate. I went to I spoke this morning at a community center at a bank, the bank's community room. And again, everybody had to say their 30 seconds. And I'm really desperately trying to remember so I can know who's in my audience. And the person that I remember, her name escapes me, but I remember what she did, and so I used her in the presentation. She says, "My name is blah blah. I am an I sell estates." She says, "So basically, I sell dead people stuff," and everyone laughed. And that was the person that I remember because she was a person that was like an estate sale person. but basically she sells dead people's stuff. And she was the only one that I remember. I couldn't remember what anyone else did. I couldn't remember their name, but the one person that did captivate me was the person when she said, basically, I sell dead people. And so the person that was after her said her last name because she remembered it so well. She says, "Oh, that's not my last name. That's her last name." I was like, that is so important. That is so important.
You
So,
reminded me of another example, if I may just quickly tell you. I was also at a networking meeting, and this wasn't my client, but I wish it were. Somebody stood up and said he cleans carpets and he cleans houses and whatever, right? And then the next woman stood up and said, or if you don't want to clean your house, you can just buy a new one with me. I'm a realtor. It was hilarious. I mean, because when you're in the frame of mind of, cleaning houses versus the
selling.
hilarious notion that instead of cleaning it, you would just buy a new one, it stood out.
I love it. You do want people to sell out. So basically, it's their way of getting into the spotlight. Okay. So
Exactly.
spotlight is one of the things I call it. Attention is a new currency, right? Because there's so much coming at us. We got Clubhouse, we got TikTok, we got Facebook, Instagram, we got Reels. It's just so much. So how do you get the attention? I said attention is a new currency. So you have something that I want you to tell people about called Spotlight Secrets. I'm in your LinkedIn group. And so spotlightsecrets.com is where people can actually find information about it. But kind of tell us how this came about.
Well, actually, there's two. The group that you mentioned, which is on LinkedIn, we have over 14,000 speakers, authors, entrepreneurs, and experts, and media. You can get to that spotlightgroup.biz, B-I-Z. So spotlightgroup.biz. The Spotlight Secrets that you see on the screen below you is a series of emails that you will receive if you go there and you put your name and your email in, if I like you. And there are tips on how to stand out in just 30 seconds. And it's been going for years, and people send me back stories of when they tried some of the suggestions. Some of them are outrageous. Some of them are just things that I notice on my travels around the world. Some of them are just stuff I make up. And most of them are pretty, it's funny, Pam flattered me before we got on the thing and said, who writes your stuff? Or maybe it was during this, who writes your stuff? Of course I write my stuff, because it'll happen from a life event. Something happens, somebody does something funny, and I'll just right away, go and type another one and add it to the list. And the beauty of that for speakers and authors and people out there listening is that if you have a similar kind of an autoresponder series or something like that you send people, then you can keep in touch with them. So let's give an example. So one of your listeners today, Pam, is an author or a speaker, let's say, who wants to add more humor to her speech. She's not thinking of me today, but she goes to spotlightsecrets.com. In 6 months from now, or 6 years from now, she gets this gig where she knows she needs humor. She'll remember, who was that chick that was on? Yeah. And she's on my list. So all she has to do is reply. So that's one place to put them. The other place that I put people, and I believe that authors and speakers and entrepreneurs, and it sounds really crass to say it this way, but if you don't have a place to put your fans, then, somebody might love you one day. Like somebody today could love our conversation and love you and love me, but they have no way to contact us, and we don't put them anywhere, right? They're going to forget who we are or whatever it is. So the second place that I put people, I have this LinkedIn group, like I said, over 14,000 big mouth entrepreneurs. I'm not talking, we are all big mouth. We are all opinionated, and we are mostly all leaders. There are people in there who have groups of 80,000, 150,000 members of their own. Ours is a more intimate group. But that's a place that I put people. So if people come to me and say, Tsufit, I'm interested in finding out more about you, they'll get on the Spotlight secret list, and they'll get these regular emails approximately once a week. The first week there's about 3, just to, but then it slows down. And then they go to the group, and in the group we have conversations all the time. So I would suggest that all your listeners do something similar, because it's not enough to captivate. Here's the thing. You captivate, but if you don't capture, you captivate means you draw them to you, you step into the spotlight and you're hilarious and they love you, and then what? They go home and they fight with their spouse, and they go do whatever they do. But if you, upon captivating them, put them in one of these two places, and you don't have to choose the same kind of places as me. So one is an email list and one is a LinkedIn group, but it can be whatever it is for you. If you put them somewhere, then later you are able to go to them again and again, or they are able to come to you again.
Yes,
or like
that's key. That is so key. Because one of the things that people say to me, I've been doing this for a couple of decades or so, right? Pam Perry, PR.com is my business, and I've been doing it for a while. And one of the things that people will say to me if I meet them in person, they said, I've been following you for years. And it's like, hmm. And they tell me their name, and I do remember, not remember everyone, but I do remember whether they bought a program, they were part of the membership, or whatever it is. But someone who said they've been following for years and you don't remember their name, and then maybe you go back and look and see the name, it's like they were on the list, but they never bought anything. So it's kind of like someone who's a singer, and so if you're a singer and they say, oh, I've been following for years, and it's like, well, have you bought any of my music? No. It's like, okay, well, why not? And so when you give someone like, I've been following for you for years and I bought your stuff, versus someone I've been following you for years, it's like, well, what's that about? So anyway, so
Well,
have
wait
you
a minute, Pam. Can I respond to that? Because I really have no issue with those people who follow me for years. I mean, Pam, as far as I know, I don't know if you bought anything from me. I don't know if you bought the book or not. But I have no problem with that, because let's say Pam hasn't bought my book and she hasn't bought my program, she hasn't bought my CDs, right? She's putting me on her program to all her people, right? Or I cannot tell you how many of those
that's the
people
picture.
on my email list have followed me for years and never made any direct contact with me. And then I find out later that a new client of mine came because one of these people that I never heard of told them, you've got to go to Tsufit.
Yes,
So those
that's
people
true.
are valuable.
It's just when they tell you that to your face, it's like, what do you say? Like, thank you.
Thank you. Well, you said it to me today, and I'm flattered and thrilled to hear that.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, okay, so that's good. It's like, I do remember someone that from a Facebook page, and I always, and it's not that I put down Facebook. I like LinkedIn. I like them all, but Facebook just seems to be like not really where I get a lot of my business from. And so, someone, I was going through a crowded parking lot, the parking structure, and everybody was saying, you got to back out, we're full, whatever, you can't come in. And so I was like, oh man. And so the guy looked at me and he's like, is that Pam Perry? Pam Perry, hey, how you doing? I was like, hey. He says, come on in. And I'm like, what? I'm like, and then my husband looks at me like, you're like a VIP. He says, I follow you on Facebook. And I fell out laughing. So from then on, I was like, Facebook is a thing, right? You just never know.
You never know.
Yes.
Pam, I was in a bookstore one day. And this woman came up to me and said, she was a big fan or something. And I thought I had gone to school with her. It turns out she had seen a TV show. I never would have had any direct. So the point is, everybody's important. I treat everybody alike. I don't care if they've bought $1 billion worth of stuff for me, or they're just a member of my group, or they're just on my email list. They're all very welcome.
And they can refer, they remember. If you're consistent, one of the things that people will say is that, I know this person's consistent, she does PR, you need to contact her. And they may not for themselves, but because the emails are entertaining, they know exactly. Emails are important, you can forward the email. I mean, it's so many things of doing that. I always tell people, attention is the currency. You want to attract people to you, then you want to really make sure that you capture their information so that it's two-way communication and not just one way. And then they transform into some kind of customer or client, or their referral, or having them, attend on their live or whatever it is. But those are the main things. We call it the acronym, so that you can make sure that you're getting attention, you're attracting, you're really, capturing or converting, and then they transform or turn into a customer. And that's really the point of all the social media, all the marketing that we do. Probably 50% of our activity for our businesses, speakers, keynote speakers, should be marketing. And it's not marketing like selling, but at least from the process of making sure that enough people are knowing who you are from exposure, that you are
I
in the
would say
spot.
99.9% of, forget 50%. I mean, listen, how much can we fulfill? How many places can we speak? How many people can we coach? But like, the thing is, to get one client, So, and the other thing that we didn't talk about, but people should be doing this. They should be crystallizing their knowledge. So I know you have authors on the call,
Yes.
but those who are speakers or those who are entrepreneurs, I don't call myself like a writer, but I am an author. I'm the author of this book, and the reason that I did it was to crystallize everything I know in one place so that it can be passed along. Because I've got clients who came to me because somebody passed them the book. They saw it in a bookstore. One of them said she was doing yoga and she found it under somebody's bed.
What?
I mean, crazy stories, right? Because
That's
this
important.
can travel where I can't travel, right?
I love the cover.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
Got
it
attitude,
wasn't,
right? Got
yes.
attitude.
And listen, if the cover was not getting their attention, attracting them, or if the cover was ugly, people would not buy the book. I always say people will buy ugly houses, but very rarely will they buy ugly books.
Well, you know what
Okay.
I say, Pam? You know what I tell my clients? I teach a course called the Book Creation Workshop about how to write a book or create a book. And one of the things I say is the sad truth is that you could put a brick between two really good, sexy covers, front and back, with some good endorsements, and sell more than a good book in a bad cover. So that's to say that I 100% agree with you.
That is so good. Getting endorsements is part of the marketing process. Writing a good book is not enough. You said that it's not marketing the book is about 99.9% to make sure that the book is going to make its move and mark on the world. It's a good book, but you have to let people know about it. Same with the keynote speaker. You have a great speech, but you have to know how to position yourself and you have to know how to market and promote yourself. Saying that 30-second uh, thing about yourself to capture someone's attention, to want people to say, I want to hear more, is so critical, especially today. I had someone on my show not too long ago, 8 seconds. She was saying 8-second PR. It's like, we have 8 seconds. I was like, it's probably now, next year it might be 4 seconds. I
You
mean,
know,
with
one of the things I mentioned in the book, that there are these commercials that are called blinks, and they're 3 seconds long, because
three
that's how
seconds,
long it, and this, yeah, that's how long it really takes people to form an opinion. And you know, you used the right word, Pam, when you said attract, because my whole thing, the whole book, is about how to attract, not chase, because everybody else is chasing. This is a book about how to get seen, get heard, get noticed, and maybe even get known, if that's something you want. Not everybody wants to get known, they're shy, whatever. But the thing is that if you had a cure for some horrible disease, you're not helping anybody by being shy and whatever in your home. Like, you want people to know that you can help them.
yes.
So it's not craft. Like, a lot of people think that what we're talking about right now, Pam, is craft. You know, it's like bragging. It's like, but the thing is, how are people going to come to you if they don't know you exist?
Exactly. And it's not, I find that baby boomers tend to be, at least on social media, less likely to put themselves out there. And they feel like it's showboating, or I'm not used to bragging on myself. They'll use words like that. And so I'll pull up a lot of other type of marketing that they may not know. I said, this person is this particular age, this person is this age, and they're not showboating. They're just showing their expertise. So this person is an expert in this A, B, and C. Why? Because their messaging is really showing people that this is what they do. It's not like I'm bragging. It's now, there is some ego marketing. I will admit there is some ego marketing, but for the most part, if you're a speaker, you need to speak. If you're a thought leader, you need to lead with some thoughts. So I was
Well,
like, how will they
good
know?
point.
How would they
Good point.
know?
And not only that, you remind me of another incident. I was at a live networking meeting, and everybody was standing up and doing their 30 seconds. And this one woman stood up and did her 30 seconds and said, "Hi, I'm so and so, and I'm a humorous speaker. So I can come do a humorous speech for your group about blah, 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 blah." And later she came to me, this woman, who's a really good speaker. I've seen her speak 45 minutes. She was hilarious. She came to me and said, "How was that, Tsufit? Because everybody knows that I critique 30 seconds, whatever." And I said, "Well, actually, it sucked. You're a great speaker. You're an amazing speaker." Well, people come to me for the truth. They don't come for pretty red ribbons. I said, "You are an amazing speaker. I've seen you speak. What the bleep are you boring us in your 30 seconds?" Like, she needed to use that 30 seconds to demonstrate not to narrate that she's a good speaker, but to
Yes.
demonstrate that she's a good speaker. Like when I do a 30 seconds, I make them like if I'm saying I'm humorous, I've never stood up and said I'm humorous. I make people laugh.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't doing that. So I think people are sometimes, the obvious is so hard to see sometimes when it's you. Like I'm sure she could help her clients do it, but she didn't see it in herself. And so it's about attracting, not chasing. It's about showing, not narrating. And we have a rule in our group, because it's a group of so many leaders and so many, like I said, authors, speakers, people like that all have big egos and big audiences. We have a rule that nobody's allowed to, what you call showboat. Nobody's allowed to promote. No, once in a while I make an exception. I let people in one post, but in general, we only ask short questions like a back room, a green room, a backstage area. How did you get on CNN? How did you get Entrepreneur Magazine to write about you? Yeah. How did how do you get podcast interviews? Whatever, questions like that. And people show their expertise by answering questions, not by standing up and saying how great they are.
That's true. One of the things that you said about the lady that says I'm a humorist, right? And she was a humorist, and you said she was hilarious, but when she does her 30 seconds, she's
boring,
falling flat. And so I always tell that people, you told her, says you need to demonstrate that instead of just tell people that. And I always say those are people that are in the jar. They can't see the label. They can't really see the most obvious.
I love that.
Everybody
You're in the jar, but they can't see the label. Good for you.
But everybody else can see that this is the obvious thing that you should say, but they don't. They're in the jar. They don't see the label. So that's one of the main things that I just
love that. That's great.
Spotlight Secret, because I want everyone to go there, spotlightsecrets.com, and really get Tsufits. Don't tell me that story again.
It's okay, Pamola.
Because it's good. I know, Pamela. And they were like, I wasn't going to be able to get my COVID test until I said the name they wanted me to say. Can you come, Pamela? I was like, who's that? Pamela.
Well, you want to hear something funny? One of my daughter's names is Paloma. And when she was born, everybody kept calling her Pamola or, some version of Pamela. But it's Paloma, dove, like in Spanish or whatever.
Yes, that is. I love that. Oh, I like that. I might even say, it's really Paloma. Just that kind of thing. It's just like so funny. So I love the fact that what you do is you help keynote speakers. You're really concise in the little brief bio and entrepreneurs, really to captivate their audience and really capture them. You're not chasing, you're attracting. And so that's one of the key things, because no one, just like when you're dating, no one wants to be really like if someone is trying too hard to get you, it's like,
you chase someone, they just run away.
Yeah, they do. It's kind of like, no, I'm good. So, thank you, Tsufit, for coming on the show today. Get out there, get known. I want people to go to spotlightsecrets.com, really find out more about it. I bring people on that I know people can learn from. And what you demonstrated was that, how long have you been doing this for? Over a decade?
About as long as you have.
A couple of decades. So a couple of decades. And so consistency is the thing. So you'll
see. Which is pretty good considering my age, right? 32.
Yeah, because we reinvent ourselves. We rebrand ourselves. And every time there's a shift in things in the world, we don't just stay still. We're shifting with it. We're changing with it. We're rebranding myself. I'm doing this live podcast here on LinkedIn. I'm on Clubhouse. You can take it and make that a podcast. I mean, there's so many different things. I'm dancing on TikTok. Who would have thunk? But the main thing is that you stay relevant. You stay fresh. Things like this interest me. It keeps me being a publicist, as a career publicist. If I did things the same way I did when I first started, I would not be here. Okay. I just tell you, I would not be here. You have to change with the times. So that's one.
Can I just make a quick comment about what you said about rebranding? The truth is, branding is not something that we do, even though we like to think we do. Branding is what other people do with us, right? People brand us the way they see us. They put us in the jar. Like we could choose a jar and think that that's the jar that we're in, and we think we know what is written on the label. We're not writing the label. They're writing the label.
It's what they see.
It's what they see.
It's what they see. That is so true. Right. We can position it, but it's really what
we can see. We can try to influence it, right? And like you said, try to position it, but ultimately they make the ultimate decision.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Tsufit. I just really adore you. You are hilarious. You really are, and you're very authentic. So that's what I. This is something I'm gonna say. This I am 61, and I always say the older we get, the more the filter lifts. So some of my friends who are 65, and definitely some of my friends that are 70, they tell you where to get off. It's like the filter is lifted. And I
You know
just
what?
started noticing that. And I was like, you wouldn't have said that 25, 30 years ago. They were like, I don't know.
Fortunately or unfortunately, I have never had a filter. So you could have caught me at 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 and you would have got the exact same thing, except for when I was a lawyer. I mean, I had to kind of play the role.
Yeah.
But in
you
this
had
part of
judges.
my
Yeah.
life, and that's one of the reasons I became an entrepreneur, so that I wouldn't have to have that filter, right? I wouldn't have to wear the suit, so I could do whatever I want.
Yes.
Wear the flip-flops when I'm being interviewed. You know, that's kind of pleasure. Thank you for this experience.
Yes, this has been really, really good. Yes. One of the things that you would say that by being a lawyer and then going into what you're doing right now, I always say that God doesn't waste anything. So all the skills that you had to have from before you became a lawyer to what you're doing now aren't wasted. You're using all of them in some type of way, even when you were an artist as well. So all of this, when you're pitching yourself to the media, it all makes sense. So when people want to see like, well, let me follow the same path as Tsufit, right? You won't, because it's her path. And so it may go like this, but it all fits for where she is right now. And that's one of the main things. So it's okay. Maybe if you were a nurse and now you want to be a speaker, it's okay. You're an evangelist, you want to be a speaker, it's okay. I mean, so use all the skills that you have, but package them so that your audience can really benefit from that, and then they can receive from you and they can become customers or clients or hire you to speak, which is one of the main things, or buy your books and all that kind of stuff. So thank you so much for joining Get Out There, Get Known today. I just appreciate you and thank you for all that you do. We will see you around in the group, on your LinkedIn group.
Yeah, come join us.
Yes.
Spotlightgroup.biz.
Biz. Okay, very, very good. So I'm Pam Perry. Thank you so much for joining everyone today. Please subscribe, please like, please share, leave a comment, take a screenshot, all the things that you want to do. We appreciate you and thank you for listening to Get Out There and Get Known. I'm Pam Perry and I'm out. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Get Out There and Get Known podcast, brought to you by PamPerryPR.com, where you'll get insider tips on how to build your platform, pitch the media, and promote yourself with confidence. Head over to PamPerryPR.com and get the exclusive video training on the 7 must-have marketing materials you need before you pitch in order to be considered in media places or superstar stages. Pam Perry